Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with a presentation looking at Mao's ideology as it developed at Yan'an. The key thing you will want to take away from this presentation is Mao's sinification of Marxism, the way in which he made Marxism fit the reality of China, and in the process, the way in which he moved away from the Soviet Union's influence. Mao gave the revolutionaries values, which were to form the basis of not only their own practices, but what was expected of others. The values of selfless struggle, self-discipline, self-sacrifice, self-denial, hard work, diligence, frugality, and altruism, all central to survival at Yan'an, born of necessity rather than ideology, and yet to remain essential if a socialist society was to be a reality. As Philip Short put it in his biography of Mao, the myth of the Yan'an Way would join the legend of the Long March as one of the most enduring emblems of the system he was to create. Central to Mao's thinking, and a fundamental cornerstone of Yan'an, as it would be in the People's Republic of China, was the principle of the mass line, that party cadres must first learn from the peasantry before they can teach and lead them. This was widely practiced in the Yan'an years, and was to feature again in bringing an end to the Cultural Revolution when the Red Guard was ordered to go to the countryside, as well as the periodical participation of party cadres, government officials and intellectuals in productive labour alongside the masses, so that they could learn from them. It called for a much simplified administration, decentralised, and so responsive to local circumstances and local needs. It sets him apart from Lenin and the central role he gave to the party. What's more, the war with the Japanese and the blockade placed on the region by the Kuomintang necessitated economic self-sufficiency. As a result, cooperative ways of working were introduced on grounds of necessity more than ideological preference. So, cooperative farms, cooperative industrial enterprises, low-tech, using local resources and labour-intensive methods, were a feature of Yan'an life. Self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and local initiative, then, were the key principles behind Yan'an's economy. And from the Yan'an experience came the idea of combining industrial and agricultural production, which was a feature of the PRC, notably during the Great Leap Forward. So it was that in the Yan'an years, what was necessary to survive dovetailed with the Marxist principles as they were signified by Mao, eroding the distinction between city and countryside, between workers and peasants, between mental and manual labour. The Yan'an experience also confirmed Mao's belief in the primary importance of voluntarism, the ideas, the will, and the actions of people, over determinism and the objective forces of historical development, for example, feudalism and capitalism. And that in China at least, the peasantry was a greater revolutionary force than the proletariat, so that in the Chinese Communist Revolution, the socialist forms and values of the new society were fashioned as the revolution unfolded, all of which sets Maoism in stark contrast to Marxism. It is the Sinification of Marxism. Mao set his thinking out in the famous Wyobi resolution of Christmas Day 1935, in which he declared the advocates of closed-door tactics, that's orthodox Marxism, say the forces of the revolution must be pure, absolutely pure, and the road of the revolution must be straight, absolutely straight. Nothing is correct except what is literally recorded in Holy Writ. They say the national bourgeoisie is entirely and eternally counter-revolutionary. Closed-doorism will drive the millions upon millions of the masses over to the enemy's side. And in October 1938 he wrote, "If a Chinese communist, who is part of the great Chinese nation, talks of Marxism in isolation from Chinese characteristics, that Marxism is a mere abstraction. Therefore, the Sinification of Marxism is a problem which the whole party must understand and solve without delay. There must be less singing of empty, abstract tunes, and dogmatism must be laid to rest. In this matter, there are serious errors in our ranks, which must be resolutely overcome." Mao's watchword was to be initiative and independence. Linked to the more flexible approach that Mao felt was needed, he sought to reduce the reliance on the Soviet Union and the Comintern, declaring that the party should run things by itself and have faith in its own abilities. His commitment to voluntarism, the ideas, the will, and the actions of people, was reaffirmed and made to fit Marxism. And in order to embed his Sinification of Marxism into the psyche of the party, in June 1936, Mao set up the Red Army University. Then, in January 1940, Mao had looked forward to the post-war situation in a piece entitled On New Democracy. In it, he picked up on Lenin's point that in underdeveloped countries, the communist revolution would need to undergo two stages, a bourgeois democratic stage and a socialist one, Marx's dictatorship of the proletariat. But whereas Lenin envisaged a dictatorship of workers and peasants, Mao included several revolutionary classes, thereby giving a role for the bourgeoisie, who were republican and anti-imperialist. So, Maoism for you. I'm sure you'll find this useful in your studies. And if you're finding my presentations useful, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and spread the word to your friends. But for now, my last job is to thank you for listening and to wish you the very best of luck in your studies. Cheers.